guys, it's Milo.
And I'm Ronnie.
And you're listening to Something Positive.
So today the topic we're discussing is mental health for teenagers, especially LGBT youth, and problems in inpatient facilities.
We are going to be having the guests Odysseus and Lexi talk with us today. Okay, so my friend Michael made a documentary about mental health for his final project for our English class. It's a college English class. And I was a part of it. So I was really excited to see it. And because that's such an important topic for me, because of so much of my life has been surrounded by working around mental health and just working through a lot of those things. And I was really, really, really surprised at the amount of people when he asked them. So the main question that he asked them was, do you think mental illness or mental health issues is something that's really common amongst high schoolers? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the people said no. Or they would say something like, I don't think mental illness is, but there's a lot of stress that goes around.
Yeah. I
just thought that was so interesting because that's so different from my experiences, especially knowing a lot of people in the LGBT community.
Yeah, well, I almost think it might even be a generation thing, that especially because more people are coming out about it, about mental health issues, because there's less stigma and there's better ways to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And I think, I think that maybe our generation struggles with it so much because of the place the world is in and just everything that's stressful. It's very stressful.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting that you mentioned stigma, because that's the main reason that he even made this documentary, because it's an English class, so we talk a lot about just different books, and we talk about arguments and all that kind of stuff and about laws. And he wanted to do something that he knew was not spoken about. Mm-hmm. And even at my school, I think my school's a pretty good high school, but there are so many schools that are in more rural communities or just less accepting communities where because he's gay, so he faces issues when it comes to anxiety because of his identity and the people that he has to be around, and depression that comes along with that. And he's been a lot more open about that. But I just think when you mention stigma, I think it is something that's changing, but it's also something that people are still just not aware of.
Yeah, and I think especially regarding the LGBT community that there's a higher risk, just like there's a higher risk of things, especially alcoholism and addiction. Mm-hmm. But I mean, and I can relate to that. I came out as transgender when I was 12 years old and started transitioning right away, and just the social ostracization, you know what I mean, was really difficult, and with my family and everything, because I was so young and I felt alone, and it definitely just added in a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, this is the first time that I remember in all of my schooling where mental health, the topic of mental health, was actually the center of something.
Yeah.
It's only been brought up so passively in in other years, and I feel that's why a lot of people aren't aware of resources. For one, they aren't aware of the issue or of the symptoms. And there's a lot of, the contribution that I had was, his question was, do you think teachers understand what students go through? And I mentioned that a lot of the symptoms of mental illness are things that are punished by the school system, not getting work done, not being on time, falling asleep in class, things like that. And the students see that too, and if in their minds that's that's just a lazy student, or they're not going anywhere in life, or they want to be this way, that also contributes to the isolation that you were talking about before.
Yeah, and I feel or it's stigmatized, or a lot of people don't know. You know, you can get an IEP, which is an individual education plan, and I have one because of what I'm struggling with currently. And it you have a team, you have a caseworker, and they can help you a lot, especially with what you mentioned, having a really tough time going to school, having a tough time finishing your work. There's also such thing as a 504, which is not as extreme as an IEP, but it's often used to help kids with ADHD. It's basically accommodations.
Who did you have to go to even get that?
Well, it took a while, and we contacted people over and over and over and kept pushing until they finally let in. And then I have like 8 principals at my school. And so we contacted one of them and my counselor and people from the district and it was a lot.
Yeah.
We all had to meet together, and I had to go through learning disorder testing for a few hours, which I've already done.
Yeah.
And then I had to do it again. And so it takes a lot, and your parents have to be on board, and it takes a lot of time.
And that's something that a lot of the people in the LGBT community, they already kind of face like a lack of parental support or like
Yeah.
support from their friends. So when it comes to something that's even rooted in their identity, like their mental, like something that worsens their mental health, it's kind of hard to want to reach out when like
Yeah.
they're already not accepting of this whole thing of you. But I was gonna ask you, did you bring it up to your parents, or did they notice something? Like, was it a lot of your own effort that had to be put into it?
Well, I started struggling I had very, very early onset depression. And so did my mom and my dad and my sister are all trauma survivors, and they all struggle with mental illness and addiction. So it was hereditary, really. And I struggled with it young. And so they noticed immediately because they know what that's like.
Yeah. Yeah, when it came to me, the thing that I found was that my school, like a lot of schools, they have a lot of resources, but they're not advertised at all. So
Or they're hard to get to.
yeah, or they're hard to reach or qualify for. And I feel like that kind of discourages a lot of people because it took me, I had to put a lot of effort and a lot of consistent reminders and checkups with like my counselors and with the therapy that they were trying to get to me. And yeah, I just feel like that's something that I wish was more easily accessed by high schoolers because we're teenagers, you know?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times the solution they go for is, oh, you could do cyber school. But I mean, yeah, like I tried that especially when my mental illness was at its very worst. And it made it so, and I didn't even realize it made it so unbelievably worse because you're isolated.
Yeah.
And
it's even harder to see that there are people who want to help you and that there are so many people who want to support you.
Yeah.
But you're not going to see that if you have to be away from people for so long.
All right. I'm Lexi,
I'm Odysseus.
and this is our segment, Not Helpful.
These are like all the things that you probably get advice from other people, or say if you just got little tidbits from others that weren't the most helpful things in your life involving mental health.
Yes. Yeah. Things that people who don't actually suffer from severe mental health think will help.
My
Like-
favorite thing is when you're telling somebody that you're experiencing anxiety and they tell you to calm down.
That just makes it worse.
Oh, I'm fixed.
Yeah,
Or when they go, just don't think about it. And it's like, wait a minute.
Overreacting. I'm like,
so you tell them exactly what's going on and what's wrong, and they just tell you not to do that.
it's like
Or-
just avoid it.
When they just point out your symptoms, like, you seem really stressed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I hate it when I come downstairs and my mom is like, oh, you look really bad today. And I'm like, I know.
They really know how to lift up my mood, you know, when they just like reinforce that. Tell me I look depressed.
I love when people say take a breather when I'm having like a moment of time where it's just like anxiety's really kicking in. I'm like, I've tried breathing. It's not working. And that's what I do on a daily basis. So what else you got?
Right.
You guys could just like drink some chai tea and it'll be better.
Just drink some water, some cold
I always,
water.
okay, I'm not gonna lie. I always just say drink water for every issue.
Drink 18 glasses of water a day.
That's what I do. That's my coping mechanism.
Have you tried jogging?
If they're just like taking a walk down the hall, it'll make you feel better.
Or like the really classist arguments, like, you just need a break from work. Like, just take a couple days off.
Go to the Bahamas.
So you know what, like my step parents did? They just up and left, and it was like the best decision that they ever made.
And they never came back.
We still don't know where they are, but
Yeah, it's really scary,
I assume
guys.
it was helpful.
When I'm having like a really bad day, I like to just like go buy myself an $8 Starbucks drink, and then I feel better.
That's I'm not gonna lie, that actually helps
It
me.
totally helps. It totally helps.
Buying,
It totally
buying
helps.
stuff. Yeah.
Wasting your money on things
That's
you don't
like
really need.
That's a little bit unhealthy in my opinion because I took that to the extreme.
Oh,
Are you ever
yeah.
stressed about money, so you have to buy yourself something?
Oh,
so that
yeah.
you feel
I hate
better.
buying myself stuff sometimes. I'm like, I want this money in my bank account, but it's in my pocket, but my bank account looks slower.
That's true. I've
Thanks for your contribution.
Yeah, it began as let me treat myself to I literally spent $72 on
then-
clothing today.
but then it just keeps going and going and going.
and I do it every single week.
And I'm like, I want to change my style, but I don't. I just want.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, when you like change your hair because
Oh,
it'll make
yeah.
you feel better.
Yeah.
That's not helpful.
I did that like 2 days ago, actually.
I shaved my head into a mohawk last year because I was like, I was like losing my mind. And
That's
then
gay
I,
culture.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It is gay culture. And guess what? It looked terrible.
How long ago was this?
This is last year, like last March.
Oh, last year.
Yeah,
Oh, I feel like I remember that. I feel like I remember
it
that.
was ugly.
You say that about every hairstyle you've ever had.
And I'm right.
Why do you
You're
still have
not
hair?
right.
Yeah, I
Clearly
do.
hair is not for you.
Wow, Michelle, I'm gonna cry.
So, anyways, back to the jokes.
This is Odysseus,
And this is Lexi.
and this was not helpful.
And now for
Bad
laughs.
What starts with T, ends with T, and has T in it? You guys actually have to guess this.
Teapot.
Teeth.
You were right. It's a teapot.
I made this one up. This is original. What was the mathematician's opinion in the farm equipment debate? He was protractor.
That's actually kind of
You
funny.
just failed algebra.
Even
That was kind of funny. I like that.